Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's so good to see so many of you here with us today. That number is climbing so quickly. We're excited that you're here. All right. Hello and welcome to all of our alumni, current students, employees, and friends of the University of Michigan. My name is Kiara Trotter, and I serve as the Director of Alumni Career and Education of your Alumni Association, and I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. We are very excited and very grateful to have Stacy Kim with us as we delve into this month's webinar topic, Rethinking Procrastination, How High Achievers Get Unstuck. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature in your toolbar. The chat is open as well for you to engage with other participants during this session, and we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible. Many of you submitted awesome questions when you were registering for this session, and so we'll do our best to touch on those. All right, so now I'll share a little bit about today's speaker. Dr. Stacy S. Kim is a social scientist, life coach, and productivity nerd obsessed with the intersection of career and family. She has written for Real Simple, Wired, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. She previously worked for the Families and Work Institute and Columbia University. She speaks English, Korean, and 3 statistical programming languages. She couldn't be prouder to be a mom to a current Wolverine who we don't believe is on the call today, so she's free to talk about her at will, despite being a graduate of another Big Ten school. And if Stacy wants to share which Big Ten school, she's welcome to do that. And I'll just add a little bit at the end. I've had the opportunity to get to know Stacy a little bit in preparing for this webinar, and she's just an amazingly cool, warm, and wonderful person. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Stacy.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much for being here. I am also excited to be here. I want to say a huge, huge thank you to Kira and Brooke and Chelsea and everyone behind the scenes and the Michigan Alumni Association for being here to host this webinar. I am so proud to be here. As you can see, this is what my daughter put on our family board at one point. I woke up one morning to this. And I also want to thank all of you for being here, whether you are online right now live or whether you're watching the recording. You are here, and I want to give you everything I can for the next hour on the topic of procrastination. This is your time, and I want to make it your time. So please try to set aside any distractions. I'm going to give you my slides, or I'm going to have a way to give you my slides and any of the resources that I mentioned or that come up during the Q&A. I'm going to do all of that. So I don't want you to, I want you to really try to focus on this. You've come here to give your time, so why not give it your all? And if you do so, I think you'll get a lot out of it. If you want to take notes or something like that, all I would suggest is on pen and paper, not your phone, not anything that could get you distracted. Just get a piece of pen and paper. And if something resonates with you, just jot down a phrase or like a word that will remind you later of what kind of resonated with you, what kind of questions you've had. And then later on, I think that'll serve as a purpose at the end of the conversation. So I'll tell you why doing something like that might be helpful to you. Our agenda very quickly is I'll give you a brief introduction or give you a little bit of background about me. And then I'm going to talk about why smart people get stuck. Because it feels weird. Like why are smart people getting stuck? They should know better, right? And then some strategies to try. And with each strategy, like an overall broad concept, I'm going to give actual tactics to use. So both of those, but understanding the why helps you do the how. So I'm going to do both of those. And then, of course, we're going to open it up to question and answers. And so I'm going to run through my slides quickly so that I can leave as much time as possible for for the Q&A, because that's where a lot of the juicy stuff comes up, right? So let's get started. Life Junctions is the name of my company. And the reason why I named it that is because I believe that there are moments in time when your goals, the things that you want to do, whether it's personal or career, they will clash with the demands made on your time and your energy. And that could be coming from your family or it could be coming from work, but the want tos clash with the have tos. And there are moments when that happen during your lifetime. And so that's more helpful to think about and to resolve than work life balance. Because work life balance is problematic because it doesn't really, it doesn't really help you kind of resolve the core problem that's happening. And so I like to think of things as life junctions. I like to help people who are going through those kinds of life junctions. So I help the smart and caring find time and energy for meaningful work, and work could be paid or unpaid, and the people they love. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be elder care, all of those things, because meaningful work and the people we love are the two things that are really important to us. And when they clash, it's hard. And so I help people through those moments. And so everything I do, whether I'm writing or coaching or, talking, that's kind of in the background. So as I was coaching a lot of smart and very talented people, it's really interesting because I think, wow, these folks that come to me for help are so smart and they're so caring, and yet they're getting stuck. And why is this? And I think that part of the reason why is that we think we're not really clear on how we defined procrastination. So let's start there. Procrastination is not about laziness. It is not a character flaw, and it is not even like a momentary like lapse of judgment or anything like that. It's not because you're lazy. It isn't something, there's nothing about you that makes you more of a procrastinator, because everybody procrastinates. And most people who procrastinate in one area of their life, but they're not necessarily procrastinating in another area of their life. So it's really not about a character flaw. It's really at the core of it, avoiding negative emotions, right? So that's really what is going on there. We're avoiding something that doesn't feel good, and we want to do we don't want to deal with it. And so we want to do something else that's more fun, right? So it's something that everyone, and negative emotions is something that everyone has. It's also, negative emotions are also very helpful. So we don't want to just get rid of them, but we do need to know how to manage them. So, so it is very understandable that when you are trying to change your job or when you're trying to find a new job, it becomes even more daunting because there are a lot of negative emotions that can be stirred up. It can trigger all or any of the four fundamental fears. And so we're going to go a little negative here, and I'm going to go through the four fundamental fears that we all as humans have. And this is something that's slightly different, but really comes from Irvin Yalom. And he describes four things that people fear. They fear death, of course. They fear abandonment, being alone, being abandoned by your loved ones, your friends, your peers, confinement, losing your freedom, being, caught in one place where you can't go anywhere. We fear that. And then we fear insignificance, that, this is all for naught. So those are our four fundamental fears. And if you take a look at it, a job and career can provide an antidote to all of those things. It can provide security. It can provide a social network. It can provide autonomy. And it can also provide an identity. And because a career and a job, especially in the US, especially in the Western world, because we place such a high priority on our jobs and our careers, and because it can give us so much, you know, relief from our four fundamental fears. Of course, there's going to be a lot of negative emotions around it, a lot of fears around a disruption of work, a disruption in your career, or when something's not going right in your career. And so it is completely understandable then that you procrastinate, right? Um, and so all of these fears are exacerbated by the fact that the smart and caring are hyper aware of the risks. So many lawyers, I coach so many lawyers, and they're so super smart, and their jobs are all about being aware of all the bad things that could happen and then to mitigate those things or to avoid those things or plan for those things. And so that's what most smart and caring people are like, not just lawyers. They know what could go wrong. You're well aware of it. You're not, blissfully going through things. And because of that, there's a lot of negative emotions that stir up. And then those negative emotions, again, um, will bring about procrastination. So we're doing smart and caring people are doing important things. We are relied upon a lot. And we are expected to do more because we're smart and caring. So because you've had a track record of doing something great, you get asked to do more. Because you're a caring person, you're going to say yes to things. And so there's a lot there that can also trigger negative emotions. Another thing that's going on is that humans in general really work hard to maintain their identity or their idea of themselves. So this is why we tend to stick to our guns when we have conflicting information that doesn't match with who we are. This is why political views, and I'm not going to get into politics aside from this one statement, this is why political views are so sticky. It's really hard to change your ways because this is naturally what we do. If something doesn't match the story we're telling ourselves, we will ignore it or discredit it, and we are not even aware that we do this, right? So high achievers, we're great at this. We can do this really, really well. We can convince ourselves. We can talk about the things to ourselves, or change our stories, or stick to our stories. So that's something else that's going on with smart people. Smart and talented and high achievers, many of us are perfectionists. Perfectionism has served us well in the past. Now, as our lives get busier and more demanding, it isn't as self-serving as it used to be. Although I would say nothing in this bad world is all bad or all good. But I want to make sure that we're very clear on what it means to be a perfectionist. Perfectionists aren't people who do everything perfectly. Um, what perfectionism is all about is really having unreasonably high expectations. That's what a true perfectionist is. So you may, for example, see that you have a very beautiful home. I talk to women about this. They walk into their homes, everything's beautiful, everything's so nicely curated, but they will notice the pair of shoes in the corner that are sticking out like a sore thumb, right? So this is unreasonably high expectations. Maybe that's not the best example, but I think you can be aware. I mean, I think it does provide some information about like how perfectionists are. It's not about what actually is happening, but really about this thinking, this all or nothing thinking that they have, that everything needs to be perfect. And because they are aware of when things are not perfect, because they have such high standards, they are very critical of themselves. And so all of these different things, you know, sticking to our stories, being aware of all of the fears, what I find in my practice, what people tend to do, what smart and caring people tend to do, and I will admit, like I've often used the pronoun we in this situation because I do this too, is that we will do what I call sabotaging first downs. And since I'm with, Wolverines here, I can talk about football a little bit. You get four chances to go advance 10 yards or score, right? And so your first down is your first chance. And I see so many smart and caring and talented high achievers sabotage right at the first town. They will not even start because the conditions are not perfect. That is often what is happening. And often what happens is that they don't even bother trying. It's like they give the ball away here, I'm going to let you have a chance at scoring instead of doing something or they won't even bother trying. And this keeps that dream alive, that keeps that notion that, oh, yes, I am smart. I am good at what I do because I'm not going to go out there and make a mistake. I'm not going to disrupt the perfection in my mind. And so, this is what I find a lot of really smart and talented, caring people do. And they're also good at hiding this. Um, so, with that, I also want to talk a little bit about postponing and how that might be different from procrastinating. Postponing is tricky because it can help you be creative. Sometimes you need to let yourself have the rest or have like that time to kind of have ideas gestate, percolate. It helps you make connections. It's good to rest. This is one of the reasons why everybody should take a break during their day. It's another reason why you should take your vacations, is that when you have rest and your brain settles and relaxes, it will make connections that you don't even expect. You can't even anticipate. This is why, for example, we have great ideas in the shower. It's because we're relaxed and and when our brains relax, when our brains have had good sleep, then we can build those connections that we might not have come up with if we just kept going, 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 going. So, postponing sometimes, or resting, or giving yourself time to let your ideas percolate can help you be very creative. The problem with postponing is that often I find that smart and caring people, especially women, um, will put their priorities behind other people's priorities. They'll put their boss's needs first or their kids' needs first. I will I will start looking to change my career when my kids have gone off to college or when I'm done doing elder care. I will start doing this. I will have my turn after my husband has his turn or my partner has their turn. Um, so so postponing is there, there's two different sides of it. So you might delay your dreams because of somebody else's dreams. And I think this is more a form of procrastinating. All right. So let's move on to the strategies. Let's look at what we can do because there's a lot we can do. And in my work, again, there are four strategies that I liked the most, and I've made it so that they all start with C so that it can help you remember. First is compassion. Then there's something that I call clear and cut. And then there's celebrate progress. And finally, choose for now. Okay, but before I get into this, I'm wondering if there are any questions. So, Kira, do we have any questions so far?
We're doing well so far, and I believe that the questions that we have right now are good to wait until the end.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank you.
make sure that you pop in those questions. I want to hear them. And thanks again to the team who are taking care of that. I'm not looking at the chat because I get easily distracted. And so I'm going to focus on this. So, but please add those questions. And I'm going to try and do my best to answer all of them. So here are the four strategies. And then for each of the strategies, I want to give you one or two tactics because I want you to be able to go right away, stop procrastinating, and go right away and get things done. So here is let me see. I'm like, oh, there. Here is the first one, compassion, self-compassion. So I find that smart and caring high achievers are not really good at taking care of themselves. They think that if they are too kind to themselves or if they're gentle to themselves, they're not going to be as motivated. And so they think of self compassion, they poo poo it as slacking off or pampering, or that's for other people, not for me. I need to be motivated. I need to be really hard on myself in order to get things done, I am a procrastinator and I need to stop procrastinating. Um, and they're rather harsh on themselves. And I don't define self-compassion as, go out and get a spa or massage. There's different things can make you feel good or restored. But I define self-compassion as an everyday choice. It is a constant valuing of yourself to make better choices for your overall well-being. So it is as you go throughout your day, am I going to choose to do this? Am I going to have some candy or am I going to have a salad? Well, maybe I want some candy and I'm not going to um deprive myself. Other times I'm going to choose a salad because I know that's the energy that I need, right? So it's all of those choices that you make throughout the day. Oh, I'm tired. Should I put my head down and rest for 20 minutes? Or should I keep going, finish it, and then rest for an hour? Those are the kinds of tough choices that we have to, ask ourselves constantly. And then when we value your our well-being, that is when we are making choices towards compassion. Some strategies, compassionate chatter. This is from another Wolverine or the a university psychology professor, a Michigan psychology professor, Ethan Cross. I'm a huge fan of his. He wrote two wonderful books. One just came out a couple months ago called Shift. The other one is called Chatter. He's a business school. He's a Ross professor. He is lovely. I've interviewed him before. He's such a lovely person. And he talks in his first book, Chatter, about how to use distanced self talk. So when you say, we often give the best advice to other people, but not to ourselves. The way we talk to ourselves is so much harsher than the way we talk to other people. So one thing you can do is you can distance yourself and say, okay, Stacy, you've been procrastinating all morning, but you can do this. Rather than say, "Oh my God, I'm such a procrastinator. I don't know why I'm doing this." You can use that distance talk and you can coach yourself and you can say, "Hey, all right, let's face it, you wasted some time, but now you can turn things around. You can start doing X, Y, and Z." And so using your own name and just talking to yourself in the second person is really very helpful. And there's research behind that. And we're not going to get into that, but check out those books if you want to learn more. Another thing is what you can do is you can explore lots of options instead of saying, "What should I do?" That kind of narrows it down to the best option. And if you're a perfectionist, you're always going to look for, what should I do? What is that perfect answer that's going to help me, that's going to like take away all of my worries, right? That's kind of perfectionistic thinking. So in order to combat that, you can say, what could I do? And come up with many different options for yourself. So the way you talk to yourself, see how the difference, it's just a small tweak. All right. Number two, the second strategy is clear and cut, right? So if you are presented with this beautiful cake, how are you going to eat the cake? Are you going to just dive in and, put it on your, all, get the frosting all over your face, get the, like, make the candles burn your hair? No, you're not. You're going to take one bite at a time. And in order to take one bite at a time, you need to first slice the cake, right? You need to cut it down into smaller pieces. But the way you want to do that is to, in reality, what you want to do is you want to carve out a single project that will help you inch forward. And so, and when you select a project, you want it to be something that will move you forward, right? And you also want it to be something that is within your control, right? So you don't, so that, you're not just taking a big chunk, you're not grabbing a piece of that cake, you're actually making a very clear choice. And the reason why this is important is that we often procrastinate when there's a lot of ambiguity. And so if we're able to kind of say, okay, let's define a project that'll help me get towards my goal. That is something that I can do. That is something that I can actually work on. That's slicing the cake. Then what you want to do is then you want to break it down into bite-sized pieces so that the slice can fit into your mouth, right? So what is the next step that I need to take? What is the very, very next step, right? And then set a timer for 10 to 20 minutes and start. Or if you're not able to start, write down that task into your calendar or onto your to-do list and schedule it. All right, so let me break this down because we all know, we're all smart people. We all know that what we're supposed to do is to break things down into small bite-sized pieces, right? If we have a big project, we need to break it down into tasks. But sometimes we forget exactly how to do this. And so I'm going to be very, very specific. Your cake is your dreams. Your slice is your projects and your bite is your tasks. So if you think about it, a dream is a big goal that you want to achieve, a big, big goal, something that you really want, right? I did notice that I didn't put salad, right? I put cake because it's something that we want. We want it. We want it desperately. And then a project is a collection of different tasks. Often we will put down on our to-do lists what not tasks, but projects. And that's why I really want to make sure that you distinguish between the two. So, for example, if you want to get a job, a really great strategy or a great project is to simply reach out to your former colleagues. This I am finding is the best way in my own experience and what I've seen, heard from other people. And I'm guessing that Kira and her colleagues would also agree that one of the best ways to find a job is to contact people that know you, like you, and trust you because they're more willing to take a chance on you. It's less of a risk to take a chance on you, actually. But contact former colleagues is a project because a task would be to find an email of a particular former colleague. That is a task. A task needs to be observable and obtainable and something very, very concrete. So find an email, or maybe even that's actually two tasks right there, I'm realizing, because finding an email and choosing the colleague you're going to talk to are two different tasks, right? So when you write on your to-do list something, you don't want to be writing contact former colleagues. That's too ambiguous. What you want to write is find Keisha's email address so that I can then email her, right? So that's the very next action step. And that's a David Allen thing, by the way. So if you want to learn more about those, some of where this comes from, it comes from Getting Things Done by David Allen, which is a classic time management book. Getting published. One of my dreams was to write a book someday. And so, but writing a book someday is just so big, so ambiguous. It's full of different fears and anxiety. And so rather than that, you want to focus on one thing at a time. And so I did my homework and I found out one way to get a book deal is to write an article. And so writing an article is something more concrete, but that's still not a task, that's a project. So instead, a task would be, oh, draft an anecdote in the next 20 minutes. Like talk about a story or an example that helps you clarify a point in the article, right? All right, I think you're probably getting this. Starting a successful business, that's a big, wonderful dream. But you know what? You need to slice that down into a project that will move you forward. Okay. So there are some projects that will not move you forward, right? Doing too much research is not going to necessarily move you forward. Testing an offer is going to move you forward. So maybe you do the research so that you know what kind of offer you want to offer. But just remember, when you choose your projects, you want to try to make it something that is within your control and something that will move you a little bit closer to what you want, right? And then the tasks, again, would be breaking it down, like just drafting the sales copy for an offer, right? All right. So I went deep into that. I hope that's very clear about how I would like you. Well, the next time you hear somebody say, oh, break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces, I'd like for you to try out that method. Um, Next, celebrate is the next one. Celebrate progress because disruptions will always happen. Your life you will find big disruptions in your life, small disruptions, somebody's going to knock on your door and ask you to do something, and everything that you plan to do goes out the window. That kind of disruption happens. Life disruptions happen. They've happened to me in my life. They've happened to you, I'm sure. And because of that, it is really important to celebrate each step. It's also, research will show you that it's called the progress principle. And when you have a big kind of project at hand, if you celebrate each individual small victories, the small wins, you are more likely to be motivated to do the next thing. And so when you have like a big daunting research project to do, and you're trying to, save the world by doing this big project, or even if it's a smaller project, by actually celebrating the different steps, that will help you to motivate forward. And it makes life more fun. So there's also been some research about, for example, punch cards. So there was marketing research on punch cards. So this is my punch card for my yarn store, my local yarn store. And so what they did in this experiment was they gave people two different kinds of punch cards. I'm going to use this one as an example. It's not exactly what they did in the research. One group of people got a punch card with 7 punches. And so if they did that, then they could get a free car wash. So if they did 7 car washes, then you can get a free car wash. And so there were 7 possible punches on their card. Another group of people were given a card like the one you're seeing on the screen, where they needed to still do 7 car washes, but 3 were already punched out, right? And so guess which group were more likely to redeem their prize of getting a free car wash? I'm going to just tell you, obviously, it's the people who already had 3 punches already punched out, right? Because it feels like you're already there on your journey. Same number of punches, but because you've already have some progress made, it feels easier. It feels easier not to just start from fresh. So it's really important to honor what you're already doing. You think about all of the things that you've already accomplished. Think about the things that you've done, right? And really honor those things. And then build on what you're already doing. So that's the strategy. So the tactic is a got done list. So I wrote an article for Wired, and I will promise it. I promise you, if you sign up for your newsletter, I can give you a link to that, or you can go look it up yourself. It's called the Got Done List, and this is probably one of my favorite tools. And people will tell me it's one of their favorite tools as well. So anytime you have any to-do list alongside of it, make a got done list. And this is not my creation. This was somebody else's, and I name that person in the article, I think. But I'm blanking right now who that was. Anyway, so anytime you have a to-do list, say it's like for example, you never plan for when your dishwasher is going to be broken down, and then you need to call the repair person, right? That's just never going to make it to your to-do list. But you get so disrupted, your day is shot because you have to take care of the broken dishwasher. And so that's something you put on your got done list, right? Because then when you look at your day at the end of the day, it's not like, oh, I got nothing done because of that stupid dishwasher. It's actually like, no, I took care of that dishwasher. We can now have clean dishes because of that dishwasher. It makes a huge difference. So you will find out that, oh, I'm actually making progress on things, but it's not that I don't have it. I have nothing to show for it. It's that I haven't honored it. I haven't acknowledged it. And when you acknowledge it, you feel so much better, right? So that's one of my favorite tools. I also have a bunch of other tools. And so when you sign up for my newsletter, and I'm going to show you how to do that, you will automatically get my 4 top time management tweaks. So, but now let's first go with the 4th strategy for for procrastination, rethinking procrastination. And this is choose for now. So we're going, I think that's awesome. That often what happens is that there's so many options in front of us, and we don't know where to start, and that's sometimes why that adds to the ambiguity, and that adds to our perfectionism. It adds to our procrastination. And so, one thing you do is you just choose for now. You just make a decision, and that helps with your willpower. It helps you focus, and so we're going to all do this week. And I hope you'll join me, whether you're on the recording or live here. I hope you will do this tonight. Tonight, I'm going to assume that everybody brushes their teeth. And so tonight, when you brush your teeth, I want you to ask yourself, think about this presentation and ask yourself, what resonated the most with me? Or maybe, what is the big question that I had from that presentation? Ask yourself what resonated the most, or what big question I had, what's sticky in your head. So while you're brushing your teeth, think about that. And then I'd like for you to try one baby step, one little thing, right? And I'd like for you to try and do it before next week, right? So tonight, when you brush your teeth, I want you to remember, and if you fall asleep before you're able to brush your teeth tomorrow morning, if when you brush your teeth, try to remember what resonated the most. Then pick one baby step, not three, just one, and then try to do it right away or schedule it and so that you can do it next week. And so here is the way to get in touch with me. Just go to lifejunctions.com backslash or forward slash, I never remember which one it is, Mish25, or you can use that QR code and, sign up for the resources. I'll send you the slides. I'll send you a bunch of things that I talked about and also didn't talk about. And it's a way for us to keep in touch. And if you have a question that doesn't come up in the Q&A and you want to ask me the question, I always answer questions from my newsletter subscribers. I do that first before cold emails. So please do that so that we can stay in touch and I can answer any questions that I haven't answered here or questions that come up later on. Okay,
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy.
thank you.
Okay, well, I learned a lot. I am a proud procrastinator now. I won't shy away from that anymore. We got some really amazing questions, so thank you everyone for submitting them, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say about these, Stacy. So the first question that we'll go to is one that we got when you were talking about the difference between postponing and procrastinating. So
Mm,
can you talk a little bit more about how we know whether or not we're postponing or we're procrastinating?
very good question. I think deep down, if you're postponing versus procrastinating. I think you'd know deep down. And it's a matter of choosing, right? It's a matter of choosing to take a break, to postpone, to say, okay, I would be better served if I were to do that later. Sometimes procrastinating, we're not being very deliberate. We will find ourselves procrastinating after the fact, right? So we will find ourselves, instead of working on that presentation that you're going to give to the career to Michigan alumni, you're instead watching a movie. And so you're not doing it, but you find yourself procrastinating instead of doing. Whereas postponing, I like to think of it as a conscious choice. I am taking a break from my work. I'm taking a break and I'm watching a movie so that I can stop thinking about this because I'm stuck with the work. I'm trying to figure out the right way to say something in my writing. I'm stuck. I'm going to take a break from this. So that's how I would, in this context, define postponing. And like I said, when the choice is being made for you, when you keep just kind of defaulting and saying, oh, let me take care of my kids first, then you're also, so you're not making a conscious choice anymore. And so that's why I define those two types of postponing. I hope that helped. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And the questions are starting to come in fast and
Okay,
furious.
all
And
right.
so I'll jump to the next one. And we talked a little bit about this before we started today, Stacy. But can you respond to the questions that we've received live and in the
Yeah.
RSVP registration? And the way that it's worded here is, do these tips apply to people with ADHD as well? This was a really popular question.
Oh, wow. I am not an ADHD specialist, right? Um, so I can't really quite answer that. I do know that sometimes and maybe it's wrong for me to say this. Sometimes I feel like I'm being, I have an attention deficit and I'm being hyper when, for example, I am scrolling through social media, right? So, and I'm scattered and I am disorganized. And so I think that, I can't say for sure if this is helpful, but being able to kind of focus and bring your focus and bring your attention on things that matter, that things that will move you forward. I think those kinds of tips are generally good for everyone, right? To be able to focus on the things that you can do for yourself, with whatever abilities that you have versus things that you don't have any control over. When I went going back to that, those cake dreams, getting a job, getting a book deal, or having a successful business, those three things are not entirely dependent on your abilities. They're dependent on somebody else. Somebody needs to be able to offer you a job in order for you to get a new job, right? So you can't really focus on that part. What you have to focus on is something smaller, something more manageable, and something that will move you forward. Um, and so I think we can all, in this very distracted world, try to focus on what we can do and then how we're going to do it. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Okay.
And everyone, you'll notice that Brooke has put some resources in the chat if you'd like to check those out, in addition to consulting with your healthcare professional. All right, so the next question, this one's a little bit longer, Stacy, so I'm going to put
Okay.
this in the chat so you can see it.
Okay, great. Let me just oops, I lost my Zoom. Oh, here we go. Okay.
All right.
Great.
So the question is, how do you get over the rumination and regretful thoughts when thinking back to the golden opportunities where we procrastinated and missed those rare chances? I see how self-compassion helps, but it does not bring that opportunity back. And it is possible those rare opportunities will never come back, thereby continuing the cycle of you know what I'm trying to say.
Rumination.
Rumination. There we go.
Yeah. Oh, good question. I think that wait, I'm going to close the chat for a bit because it's already distracting me because I'm so distracted. I think that one of the things, so why excuse me, why we ruminate is that there are pieces of information that we're getting from rumination, right? We're trying to work it out. We haven't quite resolved it in our minds, and that's why these negative thoughts keep coming back and coming back and coming back at us. And so we need to find a way to resolve it a little bit. And so one of the suggestions that I have is, like, look at it as if somebody were giving you advice, or do it with a friend, and really look at, okay, what is information that I can use that is repeatable, and what's something that I couldn't have done anything about that. So this opportunity that you lost, well, there was reasons why I lost that opportunity, and here's why, and that was completely out of my control. But here's another set of reasons why I lost that opportunity. And this is within my control. I could have done X, I could have done Y, and then focus on those things. Now, having said all of that, I will also say that sometimes when we focus too much on those negative things, we're not focused, we're kind of um, tunneling our vision towards something that may not be as helpful. And so that's where you need to kind of go and check back. Okay, well, what is something that is within my control, that is also going to serve me better, and try to kind of focus on that. So you can give yourself, for example, you can stay in control by saying, okay, I'm going to let myself ruminate for 20 minutes, and then I'm going to completely distract myself. Music is a great thing to do to get out of that mode. Moving your body, so dancing to music is another great thing to do. I know it sounds trite, but it does help you to break out of that. And then to also, again, think about the things that you did accomplish. Think about the things that, because that opportunity flew by, I bet you there are things that you were able to do instead. And think about those things, honor those things, right? And then to say to yourself, you can't predict the future, and to say, oh, an opportunity like this is never going to happen again. Well, how do you know that? You don't know the future. Maybe the exact same opportunity might not happen, but another great opportunity could happen. And so I would start to prepare for that. I don't know if that helps, but if it doesn't, keep asking me questions and or email me. Yep.
That's good. Okay. I'm interested in this next one. And I bet the people I work with are interested in this one too. And that is, oh no, I lost it. Here we go. What are some strategies for dealing with someone you are relying on who is procrastinating?
Ah, ooh, really good one. So, oh, that's really good. So, one of the things that you could do, depending on your relationship with that person, is to remember that our procrastinating comes from dealing with negative stuff, right? So it's dealing with negative, it's not that the person is lazy, it's not a character flaw, but be compassionate towards that person and say, okay, this is something that that person is dealing with something negative. And so think about those kinds of things. They're trying to deal with their negative emotions. So what can I do to help alleviate that if I'm in the position to? Another thing is to help that person start with something smaller, right? The task might be too ambiguous, the task might be too big. And so if you're able to help that person break it down a little bit, the famous Bird by Bird Anne Lamott book, it comes from a story of where this poor kid did not start on their project about, like describing all these different birds. And so the father will say, okay, kiddo, let's take it bird by bird, right? So that's one way of coaching somebody. Let's just take this one at a time. So it really depends on your relationship. Another good way to do it is to model for that person. Look, and you can say, hey, kid, like to your, if it's your child or if it's your colleague, you can say, oh, I'm procrastinating on this. um, I think what I'm going to try to do is X, Y, and Z. Do you do that? You could have procrastination helping groups in your work. Okay, what are the things that you're procrastinating on? Okay, how are we going to break this down? How am I going to support you? How are you going to support me in doing the things that I procrastinate? So there's lots of different things, but think about not pigeonholing that person into, oh, that person's a procrastinator, or maybe that if that person procrastinates a lot, then helping that person find the tools. I hope that helps.
Great. Okay, the next question is a little bit longer too, and so I'm going to put this in the chat as soon as I can get my cursor where it needs to be. Okay, it's not working, so I'll just go ahead and start
Okay.
reading. Okay, how far into a goal, project, task list do you plan ahead? Because I could spend a month just making the list and making sure it's complete.
I am
How far
so
ahead should we plan
glad.
here?
I am so glad that you asked this question. I am not a 10-year plan person. I am not a 10-year vision. Like, I have a vision board of what you want 5 years from now. I don't even do a year. I do the next 3 months. And I've had enough life disruptions. I've had a child who got very, very sick. I have elder care issues that I have to deal with, and my life has gotten so disruptive. And I find it like very difficult to plan out a year because my life is, I couldn't have planned where I am now a year ago. That often will happen. Let's look at what happened with COVID. Nobody anticipated that, and it completely disrupted us. So I'm a big fan of just look at the next 3 months and think about that time frame. That's useful. And then from the 3 months, then you can break it down. Like, okay, well, in order to get to that part in 3 months, I'm going to try and do this and this. And what are the things that I could do this week? What are the things I could do this month? But then I would break it down into a week and then get really nitty gritty in the week, right? So, yeah,
Thank you. I'll try that.
yeah.
Um, all right. Let's see. So, what if I'm a person that sees the big picture and the details? It feels like a curse because others stay in their silo. My to-do list is ongoing in a way, or sorry, is ongoing and way too long for a human to tackle. So, how can I manage this better? And please let me know if you want me to repeat that.
Yeah, no, I think um, it sounds like a very similar question in that, you're seeing big picture of all of the things that so it's more of a spread, really not a time frame thing. I'm trying to think of a way to answer it. And so again, keep that. So I would say once a week, think about big picture. And or maybe once every 10 days, you can play around with the time frame. But then on a day to day, don't think big picture. Think, what am I going to do today? I will tell people, and this is again, this is one of my favorite time management tweaks. I'll send that out, is like to think of just 3 things that you need to do. This is called MIT's, your most important tasks. Yeah, I talk about a different school, but 3 things that are really, really important that I'm going to do today that's going to help me move forward on any kind of goal and really hone in on that. So picking those, you do that each day, but then which projects am I going to tackle? Once a week, think about, okay, these are the big ideas that I have. These are the big things that I have. And given that, what can I do in this week? Listing out everything is helpful, but looking at that date, that comprehensive huge list is very daunting. And so I would say, almost say, don't look at it that often.
I love that. And there's a lot of help coming in the chat. So thank you
Awesome.
everyone for chipping in there.
Yay.
Stacy, one of the questions that we received, we actually received a few questions about this, and that is let's say that I'm retired, for example, and so my timeline isn't necessarily driven by outside demands. I have to create those demands for myself. What are some tips for people who are in that situation, whether it's because they're retired or some other reason? Where they have to motivate themselves and they don't have those outside motivators.
Yeah. Um, I think it's twofold, right? It's that you have that it's scary to think about, right? We're going back to those negative emotions, going back to those fears, so figuring out what is it that I'm fearful of and why am I doing that? And I know it doesn't feel good. So just maybe set a timer, 10 minutes. Think about what is it that I'm fearful of? What is it and it's another way to say, what is it that I need to pay attention to that I'm not paying attention to? And so just kind of tackling those things. It helps to get a coach or a therapist even to kind of delve into that, but just understand, why is it? What is it that I'm avoiding? What is the feeling that I'm avoiding? Because that helps. Number two, and I find this happens with a lot of people who do have a lot of free time and have that luxury. And maybe sometimes it's not a luxury, but um, you know, they think they should do something. Think that they should get another job, but maybe they don't want to. Maybe they don't need to. And so to really think about, really be honest with yourself and say, I might be procrastinating not because of some fear, but because I really don't want to do this. And is there something that I want to do instead? Right? If there's something that you must do, there's a third tactic that people describe as temptation bundling. and this might be something good for, I know I should exercise. My doctors tell me, my husband tells me, my kids tell me, I know I should exercise. I don't want to exercise. I dislike it. My husband runs marathons. I don't like to go on our bike, So what do? I bundle it with this game that I got addicted to. My younger daughter introduced me to the watermelon game. Okay, if you've never heard of it, don't look for it. It is so highly addictive. And I started playing that game and I realized, wow, I'm spending a lot of time on this game. So now there's a rule. I can only play the game when I'm on the bike. And so that's a temptation bundling. So that's another tactic to use where you can entice yourself. If you know you must do a certain task, but you don't want to do it and you keep procrastinating, bundle it with something that you would really like to do, right? So that's another tactic. So it
That's
really
great.
depends on, why, it depends on why you're procrastinating, right? We need to look at why we're procrastinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like someone in the chat is aware of this game, and is telling everyone don't download it.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
All right. With our last few minutes, I'll hit on a couple of questions that
Sure.
got the thumbs up in the Q&A.
Got it.
If someone has dealt with trauma at a job, which then also impacted them professionally, how do you decide if therapy or coaching is the right approach to moving forward?
Mm. All right. Um, as much as I love coaching, I think in this particular situation, if you're describing it as trauma, I would first try to start um, with therapy. And because I, um, I most likely coaches will not. So coaching is unfortunately not a regulated industry. And so anyone can hang up their shingles and say, "Hey, I'm a coach," right? And so that is one part of my profession that I'm not really proud of. Whereas therapy, it really is focused on healing. And I think you can do both, but if you were only to do one, I would start with the therapy and get that healing, get that relief, go through and do the hard work. It is hard work, and so I first want to extend my my compassion. I know it's hard. I've been in therapy. I know it's really hard. It's not fun, but it does provide some healing. And then when you want more tactic strategies, when you've kind of gotten to a point, and you'll know. I mean, I really do trust people to know. Then you can start saying, okay, now I'm procrastinating. Now I need to get a coach to help me to not procrastinate so much anymore. And then coaching might be helpful. Yeah. So I wish that person luck. And please, again, subscribe to my newsletter and email. All you have to do is hit any kind of email that I send out. If you hit reply, those are the emails that I respond to first. And any kind of questions people have, please. I can't always answer all of the questions, but I will do my best or point you into the right direction. So please, if that person who wrote in that question, I hope that you will reach out to me and keep me posted on how things are going.
Absolutely. Thank you. And again, there's some help coming in the chat as well,
Yay.
addressing some of the questions that we didn't get to. So thank you everyone for helping us out with that. All right,
Great.
we are so close to time, so I'll go ahead and wrap us up. Before I do though, please go ahead and show Stacy some love. Even though she is not a Michigan alum, she might as well be because her daughter goes to school here. So we love her just the same. Please join me in extending our heartfelt thanks to Stacy
Oh,
for being
thank
here
you.
with us today. Thank you for your honesty, Stacy, for sharing your time with us. And if you want to connect with Stacy, you're welcome to do so. And she shared that information with you. It's also in the chat, but you're welcome to visit her at lifejunctions.com, whichever this slash is, um, MICH25. Stacy, we really appreciate your time and your expertise and the support that you're providing to this University of Michigan community. So thank you so much for that. As a
Thank you.
reminder, a recording of today's session will be emailed to you along with any resources that were shared. And we're also going to add this recording to our website. A link to our survey is in the chat. We'd love to hear your feedback on our session. We read the feedback, we use the feedback, and we share the feedback with our speakers. And please explore our website where you can find a wealth of career resources that are available to you on demand. 2 a.m., 2 p.m., it doesn't matter. We'll be there with you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Stacy, and go Blue.
Thank you. Go Blue.
Nice job.